The strange new neighbor. The neighborhood was quiet, as it always had been. Families of different alien species lived side by side. They kept their gardens neat, their houses clean, and their routines simple. The mothers often gathered in small groups whispering about recipes, children, and daily troubles. Life moved slowly, without surprise. But that all changed the day a human student moved into the Sci-Fi neighborhood. It started with a small moving vehicle stopping in front of the empty house. Boxes were unloaded, and the figure of a young human stepped out. His hair was short, his skin pale compared to the green, blue, or gray shades of his alien neighbors. He looked out of place, yet he carried himself with quiet confidence. The alien mothers noticed first. From behind curtains, from open windows, from across the street, they all watched him. Why is a human living here? One mother whispered to another, "Humans are strange. They do not belong in our kind of neighborhood." Another replied. Still, their eyes stayed fixed on him. They had heard stories of humans, dangerous, unpredictable, emotional creatures. Some called humans violent, others called them clever, and a few said they were full of kindness. No one knew what to believe. Now, the truth was standing on their street, carrying a heavy box into the house. The first days were quiet. The student kept to himself. He left early each morning, carrying books and a small bag. He returned in the evening, sometimes tired, sometimes humming softly to himself. He waved politely to anyone who passed, though most aliens turned away, pretending not to notice. Still, the alien mothers felt something unusual. His smile was gentle, and his eyes seemed to carry a warmth. That made them curious. One mother, a tall alien with silver skin and 4 arms, caught herself staring too long. She quickly pulled her youngest child inside, her heart beating fast. She told herself it was only caution, but inside, she knew it was curiosity. Another mother, with blue scales shining under the sun, admitted to her neighbor that she found the boy's politeness strange, but pleasant. Soon, whispers spread. He always greets with respect. He carries heavy loads without complaint. He studies hard, even late into the night. Every little detail about the human became a topic for the alien mothers. They found themselves watching more often than before. While watering their gardens, they waited for him to pass by. While shopping in the local market, they wondered if they might meet him there. It was not only interested, was something stronger, something they did not understand yet. One afternoon, something unusual happened. The human student dropped a bag of books on the street, papers scattered everywhere. An alien mother walking nearby froze, unsure if she should help. But before she decided, the boy smiled kindly at her. "It's all right," he said in a calm voice, kneeling to gather the papers. "Don't worry." The simple words shocked her. No fear, no anger, only kindness. She bent down and picked up one of the papers. Their hands touched for a brief moment, and the mother felt her heart beat strangely fast. She gave the paper back quickly and hurried away. But that evening, she told every neighbor about what had happened. By night, the mothers were restless. Each one wanted to know more. Who was this human boy? Why was he here? Why did his voice sound so gentle, unlike the harsh tones they expected? Children were the first to break the silence. A few young alien kids approached him one day, asking simple questions. "Where do you come from? Why is your skin so soft? Do you eat the same food as us?" The boy laughed softly, answering each question with patience. The children ran back home, shouting happily about how friendly the human was. The mothers listened carefully, their curiosity growing even more. Still, they kept their distance. They watched from windows, from behind garden fences, from across the road. Every smile of his, every polite gesture made them wonder. Some felt nervous, others felt drawn, and a few felt something deeper, a spark of fascination. The fathers noticed too. They frowned at their wives' sudden interest. They warned them, saying, "Stay away. He is a human. He will only bring trouble." But the mothers did not listen fully. Something about the students' quiet charm had already captured their attention. The neighborhood, once peaceful and uneventful, was changing. Every day brought new whispers, new glances, new secrets. And though no one admitted it aloud, all the alien mothers shared the same thought. This human boy is not ordinary. He is different. He makes us feel something we never felt before. The story of the strange new neighbor had just begun. The first encounter, the sun was low in the sky, painting the alien neighborhood in soft orange light. The human student walked home, his books heavy in his arms, his steps calm as always. The mothers watched from their windows again, whispering, behind closed curtains. For many days they had only looked at him from a distance. But fate had other plans. That evening, one alien mother finally came face to face with him. Her name was Soraya. She was tall, with silver blue skin and delicate antennae that twitched whenever she felt nervous. She was known as a kind but cautious mother, always careful with strangers. That day, her youngest child dropped a toy ball near the street. The ball rolled across the path straight toward the human student's feet. Soraya hurried forward, her heart racing. She had not planned this encounter. She only wanted to grab the toy and leave. But the boy bent down first, picked it up gently, and held it out with a warm smile. "Here," he said softly. "I think this belongs to you." Soraya froze. The voice was calm, respectful, not dangerous, not strange, just kind. Her child hid behind her legs, peeking at the human curiously. Soraya took the ball quickly, nodding without a word. She meant to turn away, but something in his eyes stopped her. They were steady, open, and free of judgment. "Thank you," she whispered at last. The human nodded politely and continued walking toward his house, as if nothing special had happened. But for Soraya, her heart beat too fast. When she reached home, she could not keep it inside. She told the other mothers what had happened. "He smiled at me," she said, her voice trembling. "And," another mother asked quickly, "and I felt safe." The mothers gasped, some doubtful, some envious. Safe with a human. The idea was strange, almost unbelievable. Yet the spark of curiosity in their hearts grew brighter. The next day, more mothers tried to place themselves where the human might pass. One mother pretended to sweep her front yard for longer than usual. Another lingered outside with groceries, hoping he might offer help. Their excuses were thin, but their desire was real. They wanted to see if the kindness Soraya spoke of was true, and it was, when one mother dropped her heavy shopping bag. The human student immediately rushed over. "Let me help," he said, lifting the bag with ease. The mother's eyes widened. At his strength, but more at his tone, not commanding, not mocking, but full of respect. Soon, whispers turned into excitement. Each small interaction became a story told at night. He helped me carry my basket. He bowed slightly when greeting me. He never looks away. Rudely, his eyes are honest. The alien mothers, who once feared humans, now waited eagerly for chances to meet him. They found themselves smiling when he walked by, though they tried to hide it. But fascination has a way of spreading fast. Even children noticed their mother's new interest. They laughed and teased, asking, "Do you like the human more than father?" The mothers hushed them quickly, their faces glowing with embarrassment. One evening, something unexpected happened that gave the mothers even more reason to whisper. A small alien child tripped on the street and scraped his leg. He cried loudly, and no one moved at first. But the human student was the first to kneel beside him. He took a cloth from his bag, gently cleaned the wound, and comforted the child with soft words. "There, it's all right. Be strong. You'll be fine." The child sniffled, his tears fading. The mothers watching from their houses felt something stir inside them. They had expected a human to be rough, careless, maybe even frightening. But this boy was gentle, careful, almost protective. It was a side of humanity they had never seen before. That night, the neighborhood was alive with talk. Mothers shared what they saw, each adding more detail, more admiration. Some fathers rolled their eyes, warning again, "Humans are dangerous. Do not trust him." But their warnings sounded weaker each day. For the mothers, something deeper was growing. It was not just curiosity. It was not just fascination. It was a strange warmth that made their hearts beat faster when he smiled, when he spoke, when he helped without being asked. One mother, bold enough, even approached him directly. She asked, "Human boy, why did you come here? Why live among us?" The student paused, surprised by the question. His answer was simple: to learn, to study, and maybe to find friends. The mothers who heard this were silent at first. Friends? Did he truly mean it? They carried those words back to their homes, and each one thought about them long into the night. By the end of the week, the human was no longer just the strange new neighbor. He had become the quiet center of every conversation. The mothers, once cautious and cold, now felt a pull they could not resist. Their hearts were no longer ruled by fear. They were ruled by something far stronger, and though they did not say it aloud, every mother in that neighborhood knew the truth. The first encounter had changed everything. Curiosity turns to fascination. The first meeting between the human student and the alien mothers spread through the neighborhood like fire. What started as whispers soon turned into restless thoughts. Every alien mom, no matter how cautious, found herself thinking about the boy, his gentle smile, his respectful words, and the calm way he carried himself. The human did not even know the storm he had created. He lived quietly, waking up early for his studies, returning late, often carrying bags of books or food. He was polite to everyone, but never to Forward. To him, it was simple courtesy. But to the alien mothers, it was something far more powerful. One afternoon, an alien mother named Relka, with emerald green scales and two bright yellow eyes, decided to test him. She purposely carried too many bags of groceries, her arms full and her steps slow, walking exactly when the human passed by. "Excuse me," he said softly, stepping forward. "May I help you?" Before she could answer, he had already taken half the bags, holding them with surprising strength. "Which house is yours?" he asked. Relka blinked, her throat dry. No alien boy had ever spoken to her with such respect, not even the young men of her own kind. She pointed toward her home, and he carried the bags all the way to her door. When she tried to thank him, he simply smiled and said, "It's nothing. Neighbors should help each other." Then he walked away. That night, Relka could not stop thinking about it. She told the other mothers, and they sighed with envy. "Why didn't I think of that first?" one whispered. Soon, more mothers found excuses. A broken light outside the house, a heavy box that accidentally fell. Even simple questions about directions, each one was just a way to draw him closer. And each time, the boy responded with patience and kindness. They began to notice the little things, the way his eyes shone when he laughed, the way he always gave full attention to whoever spoke, the way he carried himself as though every mother was worthy of respect. The fascination grew deeper, but fascination also creates tension. The alien fathers noticed the changes in their wives. They saw how often the curtains were pulled back, how long their wives lingered outside, how much they smiled when speaking of the human. One father warned his wife, "You are forgetting yourself. He is human. His kind cannot be trusted." But she only lowered her eyes and said, "He is different. Different." That one word spread like a secret truth among the mothers. They all felt it, but feared to say it out loud. Then came an evening that none of them would forget. The human student, tired from his studies, sat on the small porch of his house. In his hands was a strange object, flat, rectangular, with a glowing screen. He tapped it softly, and a sound began to flow. Music, not alien music. Not robotic tones, but human music, soft, deep, full of emotion. The alien mothers who heard it from their windows froze. The melody was unlike anything they knew. It touched something inside them they didn't have words for. Some felt joy, others felt sadness, but all of them felt alive. A few mothers even stepped closer, pretending to walk past his house, only to hear better. The boy closed his eyes as the music played, completely unaware of the hearts he was stirring. Later, that night, the mothers whispered again. What was that sound? It made me feel something. Yes, I couldn't stop listening. For the first time, they realized the human carried not only kindness, but also something else, something powerful and unseen. The next day, one bold mother asked him, "What was that thing you played last night?" He looked surprised, but answered, with a smile, "Music. From Earth. It's something humans use to express feelings." "Feelings," she repeated, confused. "Yes," he said. "Joy, sorrow, love, hope. All the things inside the heart that words cannot explain." The mothers who overheard carried those words back to the others. Soon, they all wanted to know more about human music, about human feelings, about the strange power that made their hearts trembled. By now, curiosity had turned into something deeper. It was no longer just interest in a neighbor, was a hunger to understand him, to see what made him so different from anyone they had ever known. The alien mothers, who once lived quiet and predictable lives, now felt restless. They wanted to hear his voice again, to see his smile, to understand his world. Their days began to revolve around him without them even realizing it. But fascination comes with risk. The fathers grew restless, jealousy creeping into their hearts. They whispered warnings to each other, plotting to keep the human away from their families. The mothers, however, did not care. For them, the human student had already become something precious, something they could not let go of, and deep inside. Each mother carried the same thought, though none dared to speak it aloud. The human boy was no longer just a stranger. He had already captured their hearts. The neighborhood would never be the same again. The student's hidden talent, the neighborhood had already changed since the human student arrived. The alien mothers whispered his name in secret, though none dared to speak it too loudly. Their curiosity had grown into fascination, and their fascination was slowly turning into something deeper. But the real turning point came on the night of the neighborhood gathering. Every year, the families held a simple event in the community square. It was nothing grand, just food, conversation, and sometimes a few children singing alien songs. Most years, it passed without excitement. But this year was different, because this year, the human student lived among them. The mothers had secretly hoped he would attend, though none admitted it. When he arrived, carrying a small dish of food he had prepared himself, their eyes followed him. Some mothers straightened their clothes, others adjusted their hair, and many smiled in ways they had not smiled in years. The fathers frowned, but no one stopped him. The gathering was quiet at first. The children sang, the elders spoke, and everyone ate. But then, one of the children tugged on the human's sleeve. "You have music, right? Like the one you played at night." The boy blinked, surprised. The mothers leaned forward, curious. Slowly, he reached into his bag and pulled out the small device again. The glowing screen lit up, and soon, soft human music filled the air. The aliens froze. The melody was unlike anything their species had created. It was full of life, carrying both sadness and hope together. The mothers felt their hearts tremble again, just as they had the first time they heard it. But now, it was louder, stronger, and it wrapped around everyone like invisible arms. One mother whispered, "It feels like he is speaking directly to my soul." Another mother's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know why I want to cry, but I do." The fathers shifted uncomfortably, but the mothers were captivated. Their faces glowed in the light of the device, their antennae, scales, or fur twitching with emotion they could not control. When the song ended, there was silence. The kind of silence that comes when hearts are too full for words. The human smiled softly. "That was just a song," he said. "On Earth, we use music to share feelings when words are not enough." The mothers exchanged glances. For them, this was more than a song, it was a kind of magic. But the night was not over. One of the children asked, "Can you sing too?" The human hesitated. He had not sung in front of strangers before. But the eyes of the children and the curious, hopeful faces of the mothers gave him courage. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and began to sing. His voice was not loud, but it was clear. Each note carried emotion, rising and falling, like waves. The alien mothers had never heard a voice like his. It was not just sound, it was feeling, pure and raw, pouring into their hearts. Some mothers pressed their hands to their chests, feeling their hearts beat too fast. Others wiped away silent tears. Even the children grew quiet, staring with wide eyes. By the time he finished, the entire square was silent again. Then, slowly, applause began. It was not the polite kind, it was full of awe. You have a gift," one mother whispered. The human shook his head humbly. "No, it's just a small talent. Back on Earth, many can sing better than me." But the mothers did not believe him. To them, his voice was unlike anything their world had ever known. That night, the whispers in the neighborhood grew louder. The alien mothers could not stop talking about it. "He sings like the stars themselves. When he sings, I forget all my worries. It is not just music, it is healing." The fathers grew more uneasy. They saw how their wives' eyes shone brighter than before, how their voices grew softer when they spoke of the human. They warned again, "Do not let him trick you." Humans use charm to control, but the mothers shook their heads. They had felt his honesty. They had seen the humility in his eyes. Whatever he carried, it was not a trick. It was something real. From that day forward, the human's hidden talent was no longer hidden. Children begged him to sing again. Mothers asked questions about human songs, human stories, and human traditions. Some even tried to hum the melodies, though their alien voices could not match the sound. Still, they tried, laughing like young girls again. And though the boy never intended it, his gift became a bond. Every note of his music tied the alien mothers closer to him, weaving threads of fascination, admiration, and something far deeper. The human student had not just brought music, he had brought life into hearts that had long been silent. And in the quiet corners of the neighborhood, alien mothers whispered to each other, "This boy is not only kind, he carries magic within him." The fathers feared it. The children adored it. And the mothers. They were already captivated beyond return. The strange new neighbor was no longer just a human. He was becoming the center of their world. The jealous watchers, the neighborhood, was no longer the same. Ever since the human student revealed his hidden talent, the air seemed alive with whispers and secret excitement. The alien mothers thought of him during the day and remembered his songs at night. They talked about him while cooking, while tending to their children, even while pretending to shop in the market. But admiration never goes. Unnoticed, the alien fathers began to see the change in their wives. Their once-come partners now carried a spark in their eyes, a light that had been missing for years. They dressed more neatly, stood straighter, and smiled more often, especially when the human walked by. The fathers felt uneasy. And soon, unease turned into jealousy. One father, a tall alien with gray skin and heavy tusks, muttered to his friend, "Every day my wife speaks of the human. Always his politeness, his music, his smile. Enough. He is only a boy. Why should she'll look at him like that?" Another father agreed, his antennae twitching in anger. "My wife laughed at his singing. She has not laughed at my words in years. Tell me, what magic does this human hold?" The younger alien men, too, felt threatened. They noticed how the mothers no longer praised them or sought their help. Before, they were the strong ones, the clever ones, the admired ones. But now, it was the human boy who held attention. Pathetic, one young alien spat, skinned. Human, yet all the mothers talk about him as if he were a hero. Another sneered. If he stayed longer, they would forget we even exist. The watchers grew restless. They began to follow him with narrowed eyes. Whenever the human walked home from his studies, he felt the weight of their stares, heavy and hostile. Still, he greeted them politely. "Good evening," he would say. But they never replied. They only glared, their jaws tight, their hearts full of envy. One evening, the fathers gathered in secret. They met in the shadow of a tall tree, their voices low and sharp. "This cannot continue," one growled. "Our wives are distracted. Our children admire him more than us. Soon he will destroy the balance of our homes." "Yes," another hissed. "We must warn him. We must make him leave." Their voices rose with anger, but deep down, they were not only angry, they were afraid. Afraid that the human had something they lacked, something they could never give. The human, however, remained unaware of their plotting. He lived simply, carrying out his studies and helping whenever he could. He did not notice how every act of kindness added fuel to the fire. When he helped a mother carry water, the fathers clenched their fists. When he greeted the children warmly, the young men ground their teeth. When he sang at the community square, again, the jealousy nearly burned the air. It finally came to a point one night when 3 young alien men blocked his path. He had just returned from the library, his arms full of books, when they stepped in front of him. "You," one of them snarled. "Do you think you are better than us?" The human blinked in surprise. "I don't understand. Don't play innocent," another spat. "The mothers speak of you. They admire you. They smile for you. You think we don't notice?" The boy looked down at his books, holding them close. "I never meant to cause trouble. I only tried to be kind. That is all." His calm tone made them angrier. One shoved him lightly on the shoulder. "Stay away from our mothers. Stay away from this neighborhood." The boy did not fight back. He simply bowed his head. "I cannot stop being polite," he said softly, "but I will respect your wishes." Then he walked past them, his steps slow but steady. The young men watched him go, their anger boiling. Yet something in his calmness unsettled them. For all their threats, he had shown no fear. The next day, the mothers heard whispers of the confrontation. Their hearts filled with outrage. How dare they threaten him? One mother cried, "He has done nothing but help us." Another said firmly, "They are only jealous," Soraya whispered. The mothers' voices grew louder, bolder. They defended the human openly, no longer afraid of what their husbands thought. And that made the fathers even more uneasy. The neighborhood was divided now. On one side were the jealous watchers' fathers and young men, bitter and fearful. The other side were the captivated mothers who could no longer hide their admiration. The tension grew each day. A storm was brewing in the quiet streets, a storm born not of hatred alone, but of something stronger in of the human heart. But storms do not last forever. Sooner or later, something must break. And when it does, everyone must choose a side. The alien mothers knew this truth in their hearts. And as they whispered in secret that night, one thought echoed in every mind. The human boy has already become too important. No matter what the jealous watchers do, we cannot let him go. The stage was set for conflict. The test of trust the air in the neighborhood was heavy. Jealousy hung like a shadow. The fathers and young men glared openly now, no longer hiding their dislike for the human student. The mothers, however, defended him more strongly than ever. But fate decided the test would not come from jealousy, would come from danger. It began on a stormy evening. Dark clouds rolled over the sky, flashing with strange lightning. Wind howled through the streets, bending trees and shaking windows. Children pressed close to their mothers, frightened. Fathers muttered that storms were common, but deep down, they too felt uneasy. Then came the scream. It tore through the wind like a knife. A child had wandered too close to the drainage canal at the edge of the neighborhood. The heavy rains had turned the canal into a rushing river, water swirling fast and dangerous. The small alien child slipped, clinging desperately to the edge, crying out for help. The mothers screamed. Fathers rushed forward but stopped at the edge. The water was wild, full of sharp debris. To fall inside was death. They shouted orders, but none dared to step in. The human student was the first to move. He dropped his books without thinking. His eyes locked on the terrified child, and before anyone could stop him, he leaped into the rain. "Wait!" A father shouted, "You'll drown." But the boy did not wait. He fought the rushing water, his body pushed and pulled by the current. He grabbed hold of the child's arm, struggling to keep both their heads above water. The mothers cried out, some covering their faces in fear, others screaming encouragement. The fathers stood frozen, their pride battling against their fear. None of them dared enter the storming canal. Only the human fought against it. The current slammed him against rocks. Skin split, blood mixing with the rain, but he held tighter. "Don't let go," he shouted to the child. The little alien sobbed, clinging to his arm with all their strength. Step by step, push by push, the human forced his way back toward the bank. His muscles burned, his breath came short, but he did not give up. One last surge of strength carried them close enough for the mothers to grab the child. 4 alien hands pulled the little one to safety, but the human slipped, his body dragged. Further by the current, the mothers gasped. For a moment, it seemed he would be lost. Then Soraya, the silver-blue mother who had first spoken to him, threw herself forward. She caught his arm just as the current tried to claim him. Her antennae shook wildly with fear, but she held on. Another mother grabbed her waist, another grabbed hers, until a chain of mothers pulled the human back to dry ground. He collapsed on the mud, coughing water, his body bruised and torn. The child he had saved ran into their mother's arms, sobbing. The neighborhood was silent. For a long moment, all that could be heard was the storm. Then, one by one, the mothers rushed to the human. They touched his face, checked his wounds, their voices trembling. "You saved him. You risked your life. You are brave." The fathers stood back, shame burning in their eyes. They had done nothing. They had hesitated while the human had acted. One father tried to speak. He was reckless, but the mothers silenced him with a single look. Reckless or not, the truth was clear. The human had been willing to sacrifice himself for a child who was not his own. When the storm finally passed, the human sat wrapped in a blanket, his wounds cleaned by gentle alien hands. Children surrounded him, their eyes wide with awe. Mothers whispered words of gratitude, their antennae and scales glowing faintly with emotion. "You could have died," one mother said softly. The human gave a weak smile. "Better me than the child." Those words struck deeper than the storm. The mothers felt their hearts tremble. Never before had they seen such selflessness. That night, when the human finally rested, the neighborhood buzzed with whispers. "He is not like us. He is more. He saved a life without fear." Perhaps humans are dangerous. Yes, but dangerous in a way that protects, not harms. For the first time, admiration turned into something greater trust. The jealous fathers no longer had words. The young men no longer had pride. Every one of them had witnessed the truth. The human had proven himself. The mothers gathered secretly, speaking softly but with conviction. "He belongs here," Soraya said. "This neighborhood is his home now." "Yes," Relka agreed, her emerald eyes shining. "He has given us more than safety. He has given us hope." And in their hearts, every mother knew, whatever the future held, the human student was no longer just a neighbor. He was their protector, their hero, their most trusted bond. The storm had tested him and he had passed. But the story was not over. For in every heart that beat faster that night, one thought remained. If he could risk his life for a child, what else might this human give? The final chapter of their fascination was about to begin. The captivated neighborhood. The storm had passed, but its memory lived in every corner of the neighborhood. The rushing water, the frightened screams, and the sight of the human boy throwing himself into danger could not be forgotten. The alien mothers replayed that moment in their minds again and again, his arms fighting the current, his voice shouting for the child to hold on, his body bruised but unyielding. That night changed everything. The fathers no longer spoke their jealous warnings. The young men no longer muttered insults. They had all seen the truth with their own eyes. When danger came, it was not they who acted. It was the human. The next day, the neighborhood was alive with quiet awe. Wherever the boy walked, eyes followed him. Mothers greeted him openly now, no longer hiding their interest. Children ran to him, tugging at his sleeves, asking him to tell the story again. Even the elders gave him respectful nods, something they rarely offered to outsiders. The boy seemed surprised by all the attention. He had never wanted to be a hero. To him, saving the child had been simple. It was the right thing to do. But to the aliens, his actions meant far more. He risked his life for one of us. Soraya whispered to a group of mothers. He did not hesitate. Yes, Relka added, her emerald eyes soft. He gave us proof that his heart is pure. In the days that followed, the mothers began to treat him as if he were part of their families. They invited him to share meals, insisting he taste their dishes. They asked about his studies, his home, his planet. He answered with patience, never mocking their questions, even when they were simple or strange. One evening, as he sat with 3 alien mothers on a porch, they asked, "What do humans value most?" The boy thought for a moment. "Family," he said. "Even if blood is different, even if faces are not the same, family is not only who you are born with, it is who you choose to protect." The mothers fell silent, their hearts moved. To them, the human had already become family. But admiration soon grew into something stronger, devotion. The mothers began to look for him every day. If he was late returning from studies, they grew restless, standing at their windows. If he smiled at another, some felt a sting of jealousy, though they tried to hide it. Their fascination had become an unspoken bond, one they all shared. The children noticed too. They whispered and giggled, saying, "All the mothers love the human." But the mothers hushed them quickly, embarrassed. Though inside, their hearts pounded with truth. The fathers watched silently, They no longer had the strength to oppose him. Some felt shame, others respect, and a few even gratitude. One father, who had once shouted that the human would bring trouble, now confessed quietly, "Perhaps he was meant to be here. Perhaps we needed him." The real proof of his place came during the next community gathering. This time, it was not planned, but natural. Families gathered in the square to share food. Children played, and the human was at the center of it all. Someone asked him to sing again. At first, he hesitated, but the mothers insisted. So he sang, not loudly, not proudly, but simply. His voice carried warmth, filling the air with peace. The alien mothers closed their eyes, their faces glowing in the soft night light. They felt their hearts beating in rhythm with his voice. Some wept silently, not from sadness, but from a strange joy they could not describe. When he finished, silence covered the square. Then, as one, the mothers clapped, their voices rising with cheers. Children shouted his name, and even some fathers joined in, their pride swallowed by respect. In that moment, the human was no longer a guest. He was the heart of the neighborhood. That night, as he walked home, Soraya stepped forward. She placed her hand on his arm and said softly, "You are not just our neighbor anymore. You are part of us." The other mothers nodded, their eyes shining with the same truth. And though the boy only smiled shyly, inside he felt the weight of their words. For the first time since leaving Earth, he felt truly at home. From then on, the neighborhood was never the same. The alien mothers no longer whispered about him in secret. They spoke openly of his kindness, his bravery, and his gift of music. The children adored him, the fathers respected him, and the community cherished him. But for the mothers, it was more than admiration. It was a quiet devotion, a bond that went deeper than words. They knew the truth now, and they carried it in their hearts. It was not power or strength that had captivated them. It was the human heart, the heart that gave without fear, that protected without asking, that loved without condition. And so, in a neighborhood of aliens, the human student became the one who made them feel most alive. The strange new neighbor was strange no longer. He was family. He was theirs.